The inspiration for Clara's Dream really came from the Duke Ellington Billy Strayhorn arrangements of Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite. I heard the possibilities for a really swinging tap rendition of this classic story. I couldn't see a better way to promote the art form and the artists that I work with than to have this very familiar lens with which to show jazz and tap.
Bringing on me, and me dancing.
And Clara being like... We originally met in 1999.
Oh yeah. So you were holding this.
And for 3 days talked about ideas and further develop the storyline and the music, and Paul kept working on the music.
I decided immediately that I wanted to be involved because, one, I know tap so well, and I thought it would be great to play these popular melodies that everyone knows, that a lot of people know from the Nutcracker, and manipulate them like Duke did, but also in my own way. I like the opportunity to invite people through these melodies, through this reworking of the traditional vehicle, to bring just more people into it, to see what we do, what we've spent our whole life doing. This jazz and tap, the things that make it so important to us.
Tap dance gets lumped into the world of the stereotype, you know? It gets cast as this dumb entertainment form. And I think in taking over the Nutcracker and putting our 2 cents into it, we're sort of making a statement in a way about, you know, we can be entertaining, but we can also be very interesting artists, and we can take something that is a cliche and we can do it without cliches. Yeah. We can kind of deconstruct the cliches of the Nutcracker, reinterpret them, make them fresh again.
Though the piece is generic in a sense, the Nutcracker, we moved it right away to Clara's Dream. So that offers us a lot more freedom. And also into the idea of an adolescent kind of transformation.
Clara is an adolescent who's really seeking her own voice, finding a way to express herself. And she doesn't feel comfortable necessarily with her parents' classicism and traditional style. And she sees the gift that Uncle Dross gives her, the Nutcracker doll, as really being the manifestation of her desire to express herself through jazz. Josh is a very funky tap dancer. Funk is part of his vocabulary, and Paul created a fantastic, based on the overture theme, a funky nut. We call it the funky nut. Paul created incredible music for this production. Music that's great to listen to. I never tire of listening to his arrangements, and really fun to dance to. For instance, the Sugar Plum Fairy becomes a tango in one of his most inspired pieces. The Arabian melody of Tchaikovsky's becomes a 6/8 Cuban piece. From our earliest meetings, we all really fell into our characters. For instance, Bob Thomas as Uncle Drosselmeyer. It was perfectly suited for him because he's an eccentric dancer who really embodies a lot of the early jazz movement. No one else could have played Father but Dean Diggins, who is Mr. Classical Ballet Tap, and who studied for many years with Paul Draper, who really originated ballet tap. And then Brenda, who's an incredible bebop artist. Paul has arranged a bebop waltz based on the waltz theme, which she uses to trade with Sekou, the African drummer. The African and Irish are really the most fundamental and important elements in the history of tap dance. They're traditional forms that came to this country and were incorporated into American jazz and tap. It's very important to me to illustrate the tradition, not just from the African and Irish, but from the traditions of American tap dance. For instance, we have the shim sham, which is probably one of the most familiar jazz tap traditions. The DS chorus. Josh's bucket wing. The Lindy Hop. Really, the story of Clara is all of our stories. I think that's what makes it so universal. It's every artist trying to find their voice, and it's all based on tradition. You have to learn the language before you can speak it.